After the campaigning, the voting, and the hand-wringing for some, 17 hours from now, in the building right behind me, Donald J. Trump will take the oath of office. The official inaugural program kicked off this afternoon at the Arlington National Cemetery. Trump and Vice President-elect Mike Pence laid a wreath to honor the nation's veterans before heading over to the Lincoln Memorial for a Make America Great concert. This morning, Pence said they are ready to go.
It is a momentous day before a historic day, and I'm pleased to have a chance to report to the American people and to all of you the progress that we have made at the President-elect's direction, preparing a team that will be ready to serve the American people and make America great again on day one.
Inside the Capitol, the business of vetting cabinet nominees continued. Former Goldman Sachs partner Steve Mnuchin is to head up the Treasury. Yesterday, Senator Elizabeth Warren outlined her concern about his role with One West Bank during the Great Recession. Mnuchin served as chair of the California Bank.
Foreclosures happen in an economic crisis, but One West was different. It quickly gained a reputation as a foreclosure machine, even when compared to the other financial institutions that aggressively and illegally tossed families out of their houses after the financial crisis. One West was notorious for its belligerence and for its cruelty.
All of this while the city prepares for hundreds of thousands of visitors coming to witness history, and possibly close to an equal number who will be coming to protest the president some consider illegitimate, others consider dangerous. Mike Capuano is now the second member of the Mass congressional delegation to say he will not be here tomorrow. About a third of the House Democrats say they will not attend the inaugural. Joining me is someone who knows a little bit about presidential politics. He's at the Kennedy School of Government, also a commentator on CNN, a presidential advisor to 4 presidents, Nixon, Ford, I hope I get them all right, Nixon, Ford, Clinton, and Reagan. Did I do it?
Grover Cleveland.
That's fine. David Gergen, it's good to see you.
Thank you.
You know, you have a reputation of playing it down the middle, but you've said many very critical things about Donald Trump. Do you think, based upon your experience, he has the skills and temperament to do this job?
I don't think any of us knows that yet. Let's see him in office. We keep hoping that he'll become more, quote, more presidential. It doesn't happen. I think I may be wrong, but we may have gone over the last day and a half, the longest period when he hasn't tweeted recently. So maybe there's a change coming. But I must say, you find this on your radio show with callers, and I run into it every day. You know, the people of the Northeast, in particular, are frightened, and they're very, very unsettled by this president. He needs to move tomorrow in his inaugural address beyond his base. He's been talking to them most of the time. He needs to reach out to all Americans, make it more inclusive, and try to calm people down.
So let me refine my question. Sure. Is the Donald Trump we know up until this moment have the skills to do this job? The
Donald Trump we've seen on display, no, I think it's the wrong temperament for the job. It's a very wrong fit. He seems to have a shtick, in effect. He seems to be an entertainer. I mean, I've talked to people who know him much better than I do, who in person say he's quite calm and, you know, he's very bright. But when he gets on stage, you know, he's the entertainer.
Well, it's also a question about, does he have the people to do the job? And I'm not just talking about the 21 cabinet nominees. I read a really interesting piece you wrote that only 4% of the people who need to be confirmed for the Senate who will work for him have been even nominated as of yesterday.
It's a little higher now, but it's less than 15%. It's less than 15% of the key jobs, of all the key jobs, of which are about 690. He's nominated maybe 28, 29 now.
So how do you get off to a start with that kind of hole?
Well, I'm very worried about that for the country, because I do think it matters whether you like Donald Trump or don't like Donald Trump. We'll never know whether, if George W. Bush had a full team on the field on 9/11, whether we might have stopped it. But we do know that half the people working in key jobs for the war purposes were either not there or had just come on the job. And we have a real dysfunctionality in the way we appoint people to sub-cabinet posts. And Donald Trump has lengthened that process, I'm afraid, more than we've seen.
Can I test out a theory on you? Yesterday
Sure.
we saw his approval ratings very low, 40%.
Yep.
But I would say it may not hurt him for the. I think there's a Pogo-esque thing at work. Let me give you an example. I'm watching the Mnuchin hearing today, and I am betting, this is just my sense, that more people tonight are going to be talking about his blonde girlfriend with her head on his right shoulder than they are about his history with foreclosures.
You're the first person
Am I wrong?
heard it. No, you're the first person I've heard to mention it.
Is that really true?
Yeah.
So I am wrong.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong. But what I do believe is that it is possible, to use a George W. Bushism, that Donald Trump has been misunderestimated. I think that if I found Mnuchin today a reassuring figure. Not that I agree with him, and there's all sorts of questions about his assets and conflicts and that sort of thing. But at least he knew what he was talking about. At least he was an adult talking about it.
As opposed to like DeVos yesterday, the potential education secretary.
And Rick Perry is having a hard time with this. You have a sense if they would focus on the economy and jobs and get rid of all the distractions, all the tweeting, all the backing and forthing, the recriminations, the attacks on John Lewis and all the rest of that, if they would clear all that crap away and focus on the important, maybe the country could come to see he's going to do something.
You know, speaking of John Lewis for a second, I was curious, this legitimacy issue that was raised, is this like a one and done thing? I mean, it obviously swelled the numbers of boycotters, or do you think the intention is to try to do to Trump what Trump tried to do to Obama for 8 years with his birtherism thing?
I think there is some of that. I think it's retaliation to a degree. But I also think that Donald Trump, if you look at his cabinet so far, the people he's appointed so far, overwhelmingly white guys. Very few minorities. Like 2 women in the 15 are going to be at the cabinet table. No Hispanic, no Democrats.
First time no Hispanic since Reagan. Is that not true?
Yeah. But no Democrats. Usually there's at least a token person from the other party. And that worries me because, as I said a moment ago, he's been playing so much to his base. In order to govern, he has to be president of all the people, not president of that 40%.
Well, speaking of all the people, let's talk about all the Congress. Do you still do part of the training for the freshman Congress?
Yes,
people?
we do.
Republicans and Democrats.
We had them at the Kennedy School about 4 weeks ago,
3
weeks ago.
Are they not talking to each other like their elders are not talking to each other? Or is it a new era?
I was so encouraged about it because this group of, must have been close to 40, came in from both parties, and they talked a lot about how can we work together? How can we change the tone of Congress? And what they said was, and the first time this has happened, they said, what we need to do is we need to keep meeting. And we'll come back to the Kennedy School in a year. And so we can look each other in the eye and say, have we kept our bargain or not? Or have we lost? Have we just sort of become part of the swamp? And that's, I don't know, but I was encouraged. I'm encouraged by the class above them. Frankly, some of the young talent that's coming out of the Massachusetts delegation represent great hope for the country.
Does Donald Trump have a mandate? And if he does, what is that mandate?
It's when we talk about mandate, usually we were talking about Franklin Roosevelt and all the big programs he was going to do. Donald Trump doesn't have a mandate for a particular program in my judgment, but he does have a mandate for change, to be a change agent.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means. Now, there's a difference between change and disruption. Clay Christensen at the Harvard Business School, has really focused on this whole question of disruption. And a disruptor comes in. It's been interesting. When the Trump team has come in and talked to the Obama team to get their various, they get the handoff, and the Obama team tells them how they run things. That's not what the Trump team is interested in. They want to know how do we change things. It's a very different proposition. Our government, our national government, is the biggest, most complex, most powerful government in the world. It's hard to manage this, and you have to be serious about that if you want good results.
So if Donald Trump hears in the next few hours, you not only advised Grover Cleveland, but all those other presidents, and says, I'm not finished my speech, I'm going to call this guy tonight to get a minute's advice. What's the last minute advice you give him about what he should say to the American people tomorrow?
Be inclusive. Speak to all Americans. Represent all Americans. Take pride in what this country can become. I think, Barack Obama leaves tomorrow on a wave of good wishes, but I think his greatest legacy was not his programs. I think his greatest legacy was setting a moral example and man of decency and honor, and I think that there's something to be learned from that.
David Gergen, it's a pleasure to see you.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
David Gergen.